Thank you for tuning in to our Wednesday night Bible study with Pastor George Effiom. Go grab your Bibles and get ready to engage with the Word of God. This is a production of Lifeline Media and United Christian Fellowship of Arlington. Enjoy and be.
In Matthew chapter 18, the Bible teaches us about how to handle conflict or how to handle division or disputes when they arise amongst us. Our Lord Jesus Christ tells us how to handle disputes that arise amongst us, not just to give us another set of rules to follow, no. But the reason he teaches us how to resolve disputes and conflicts is because conflicts and disputes divide families when they are not fixed. They divide families, they divide churches, they divide siblings. Conflicts have divided many homes, many marriages. Conflicts have divided nations and destroyed many lives. And for this purpose, our Lord Jesus Christ went out of his way in Matthew chapter 18, beginning in verse 15 through 20. He went out of his way to teach us how to deal with disputes and conflicts when they arise in our lives. Most of the time when we do Bible study, we try to move pretty quickly through the text because we are studying the Word of God book by book, line by line, verse by verse. But we came to Matthew chapter 18 and decided not to move through it too quickly, but to slow down so that God's people will have understanding. Why? So that disputes and conflicts that bring division and divorce and depression and all of this ugliness to our personal lives, our family lives, and sometimes even our church lives, so that these things will become things of the past. Many homes are destroyed, marriages broken, because people don't know how to resolve conflict. Last week, I believe it was last week, Wednesday, when we had that ugly incident that happened at Timberview. It happened because two young people were fighting. Started with a fight. Well, why were they fighting? They were fighting because they had conflict, they had disputes among them, and they didn't know how to resolve their disputes. It became a fight, and before we knew it, shots were flying all over the place. All the schools in Arlington School District, I think, and Mansfield, were locked down because people don't know how to handle conflict. So today we continue down that road, repeating and repeating and repeating what we have talked about, so that by the grace of God it will sink into somebody's heart, and somebody will know this very important thing that the Lord has given to us. In the last couple of weeks, we studied a number of things. One of the things that we studied was about the process that our Lord gave us. He gave us a 4-step process that we are to use whenever we have any conflict with anyone, even in marriage. The first step of that process, he says, that those who are in the conflict should talk to each other privately. Don't talk to anybody else. If you feel like your brother or your sister or your husband or your wife or your child, if there's a problem, talk about it one-on-one. That's what Jesus told us to do. And the reason he told us to do it one-on-one is because when we learn how to talk to one another respectfully and resolve our problems one-on-one, our relationships become stronger. Sometimes we try to avoid doing it one-on-one, and we try to go for the easy path by trying to ask somebody else, oh, tell that person that they made me upset. Or sometimes we don't even tell the person at all. We tell everybody else what somebody has done to us, but we never tell the person who supposedly did it. And many times we are angry at people for things that they didn't even know that offended us. Jesus said that we should do it one-on-one. Today's focus is on the issue of the conflict resolution in marriage. But the same principle applies. Do it one-on-one. Learn how to talk to your husband. Learn how to talk to your wife, even when you are upset. Because if you don't learn how to talk to one another, you will end up ignoring issues. You will end up sweeping issues under a rug. Just today, I was involved with a couple that is going through conflict. Going through conflict, serious conflict that resulted in domestic violence. Just today. Thanks be to God, it's not a couple from this church, so there's no need for anyone to speculate on that. Not a couple from this church, but a couple that God loves anyhow. Involved in domestic violence. And when I began to talk to them, I discovered that they had bottled up so many things for so long. They had never talked about them, even though it was clear that both sides were very, very unhappy over a long period of time. And just a couple of days ago, when just a little thing happened, and this little thing that happened caused a big explosion. And I looked at it, I said, the explosion that I'm observing is bigger than this little thing that happened. Why is the explosion so big when the problem seems so little? Well, you don't have to be a genius to figure it out. The reason the explosion was so big and the problem was so little is because this problem was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't the main problem. Problems had been building up over a long period of time. And because they did not learn how to talk to each other, they kept on sweeping the problem under the rug. Until one day, they exploded. So Jesus says, do it one-on-one. It's not easy, but talk it out so that it doesn't become too big for you to handle later on. Because that conflict, they didn't talk it over one-on-one, privately. When the explosion happened, the explosion became public because there's nothing like a private explosion. You know what I mean? Whenever the explosion goes up, everybody hears it. And here I am finding myself involved in a conflict, and trying to bring resolution to a matter that happened with people thousands of miles away from me. Jesus said, talk about it privately. And if you learn how to do that, you will not get to the point where there is an explosion, then other people will have to become involved in your matter. Number 2, Jesus Christ says, if you cannot, if you talk about it one-on-one, and you cannot resolve it one-on-one, he said, bring 1 or 2 other people in. Bring some other people in to help you resolve the conflict. Why do you want to bring other people in? Because your unity, the oneness of your family, the unity of your marriage, the unity of your relationship is important. So I know you don't feel too good about going to a stranger or going to somebody else and telling them your personal business, but sometimes if you have tried and tried privately and you can't do it, Jesus said, find somebody else. You don't have to be a total stranger, but somebody that you trust, somebody that is a mature Christian, and explain the problem to them so that they can help you through the process of reconciliation. Because if you don't do so, then you keep up division in your home, division in your family, division in the church. Sometimes, it breaks your heart in the church. You find out that this person doesn't talk to that person doesn't talk to the other. If your church is a huge church, if you belong to a 30,000 member church, then if you quarrel with me over here, you can go and sit way on the other side and you never have to see me again for the rest of your life. But if you are in a church like UCF, we're not 30,000 members or anything like that. It's difficult to hide. So God says, do what you can to solve the problem. Last week I was giving examples of even marital problems. Sometimes husband and wives, they quarrel, and it's a private thing that happens at home, and we in the church, we don't know anything about it. But the first time we will know that something is wrong is we discover that sister so-and-so is sitting over there and brother so-and-so is sitting over here. When you notice it the first Sunday, you say, well, maybe it's just a fluke. But after the second and the third Sunday, you begin to figure out, well, something's going on. Something that is private starts becoming public, even when you didn't plan for it. So Jesus Christ says, take 1 or 2 people, ask them to help you. And last week we talked about the fact that it should be people that you trust, people in your church. There should be somebody you can talk to. Maybe those 2 boys that were fighting at Timberview, maybe there were some other kids or young people who were friends or who knew the 2 of them. Maybe they could have talked it out. Maybe the counselor at school could have helped them, whatever the case may be. Maybe their families or some friends that they had in the community could have helped them. But that never happened. And before you knew it, some dispute between them has become a bigger dispute. When the dispute first started, it happened in their classrooms. The only people who knew about it were the people in the classroom. Saw them fighting. But by the time the gunshots started ringing, even President Biden in Washington, D.C. was talking about it. A private matter had become a national scandal. Jesus said, do it one-on-one. And if you can't do it one-on-one, get 1 or 2 other people to help you so you'll be able to get over it. Step number 3, it says that if it continues and you've gotten help, try to get one other person or two people to help, and you still can't get it done, then he says, tell the church. Tell the church. You have deacons, you have ministers, you have Sunday school teachers, you have different people, men's fellowship, women's fellowship, leaders. Tell somebody. One of the great challenges that we have sometimes in the churches, people don't assimilate into the body. What that means is that they are members of the church, but they don't attend anything. Have you been to the men's meeting? No. What are the men doing? I don't know. Have you been to the women's meeting? No. What Sunday class do you belong to? Sunday school class do you belong to? None. Which ministry do you serve in? No. If you are a member of a body and you don't do anything, you don't participate in nothing, then when there is conflict or there is a dispute, you don't even know anybody that you can talk to because you don't have any relationship with nobody. Maybe except your immediate family, assuming your immediate family also comes to church. So what the Lord is saying is that we are part of a church, a larger body, and because the unity of that body is important, that if you can't do it with one or two helpers, then tell the church. But what it means is that once you get to the point of telling the church, then your private matter is no longer private. Is that right? Because it's like filing an official report about something that happens on your job. Once you document it and file the report, well, it's no longer a very private matter because your HR will have to investigate it and go through it. That's how it works. So it says, tell the church. And for our church, we talked about the fact that you can talk to any of those people I talked about, deacons, ministers, leaders, men's fellowship, women's fellowship. If you have a Sunday school teacher, that's great that you are close to. Talk to them. And if they can't do it for you, then we said, we have a committee in this church. It's called the Reconciliation and Restoration Committee. They are the representatives of the church to help us deal with disputes that occur. But look at the name of their committee. It's called Reconciliation and Restoration, which means that their goal is to do what? Reconcile and restore. Their goal is not to tell everybody about your problem, broadcast it, gossip. That's not their goal. Their goal is just to help you reconcile and restore. Why? Because when you do that, then the unity of the church is maintained. And two people don't end up fighting with one another. This committee, if you tell the officers of the church and they can't help you, they'll refer you to that committee. And if the committee cannot help you, they'll refer you to the pastor. So that's the process that we have here at the church. And the pastor generally will be the last person to chime in and make a decision about what happened and to try to bring reconciliation. And if the person, if after the pastor talks to you, the thing is still not reconciled, the pastor will bring it to the church and tell the church that we have done all these things to help these two brothers, or this brother and this sister. They've been having a problem. We have taken all these steps to help them, but brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so refuses to do what is right by their brother or their sister. And when the pastor does that, the pastor is basically telling the church, this person does not respect this church, And because they don't respect this church, they do not need to be a member of this church. And the church excommunicates that person. That means that we withdraw their membership from the church. Because if you do not recognize the authority of the church, the structure of the church, the process of the church, if you don't recognize it or you don't respect it, then you don't have any business being a member of that church. You need to find you a church that you respect. Then you can serve better there. So this is just the process that our Lord Jesus Christ gave us. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 20. And last week, a question arose, and I'm just going to touch on it here a little bit more. And the question was, what should we do when these things involve marriage? Because sometimes it's not just two members of the choir that quarrel, or two deacons, or two members just of the church that quarrel. Sometimes the disputes in the church are between husbands and wives. And sometimes these disputes between husbands and wives can become even the worst disputes. Because when it happens, the news gets around. You know, people, do you know that brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so, either they're divorced or they're this or that. And the truth of the matter is that people talk. I don't know any place that people don't talk. And if we take care of our business, then we don't really have to worry too much about what people are saying. But if we don't take care of our business, and then we allow our stuff to become a public matter, then we cannot now start going around talking about people are talking about me. You know, people are going to talk if you put your business in the public. So that's why Jesus Christ says, don't put your business in the public. Take care of it privately. But if you don't take care of it privately, it will become public and people are going to talk. So if it becomes, the question was asked, what do you do when it is between a husband and a wife? And those steps that I have just read to you, step 1, 2, 3, do it privately, get 1 or 2 people, then talk to the officers of the church, those are the same. Whether it is 2 youth that are fighting, or young adults, or a husband and wife of 30 years, it's the same. It is at step 4 that the difference, a little bit of a difference begins to show up. If that restoration committee that we talked about, if they've tried and they are unsuccessful, then the matter is brought to the senior pastor. It's brought to the senior pastor for further mediation. Again, the focus of this mediation is on reconciliation and restoration. I found out that sometimes it's good to let tempers calm down a little bit before you start making decisions. I told you that just today, I spent probably minimum of maybe about 2 or 3 hours of my afternoon today helping a couple that had issues, and they had had a conflict that degenerated into an incident of domestic violence. And as I'm helping them, go through whatever it is that was happening with them, I try to offer them, pastoral counsel. For those of you who just heard me say that, or you just got online or whatever, sure, this is a couple very, very far away, not even a couple in our church. Otherwise, I wouldn't even talk about it. But these are people were very, very far away on a whole different continent, going through some issues. And it was necessary for me to mediate. And sometimes I've discovered that when people are emotional, they are emotional about something that happened, you don't always get the best results trying to deal with a conflict. When people are emotional, they're upset. And so I had to try to bring down the temperature of the discussion first, bring down the temperature so that when people were a little bit more level-headed, we can begin to discuss what really happened. Why did it happen? How can we avoid it? So there's that work of mediation that must go on. But sometimes we just got to calm things down a little bit. If a pastor, for me, myself, if a matter comes to me and it involves a couple, I have learned this from experience now. I'm going to counsel a couple of times. When I was a younger pastor, I would spend days and weeks counseling people over and over and over again, going to one person's house 10 times. I'll never do that again. I'm going to counsel you 2 times. And after I'll counsel you 2 times, I'm sending you to professional counseling. You understand what I mean? I'll send you, I'll refer you. I have lists in my office of professional Christian marriage counselors. And I'll refer you to them. But never again are you going to see me going to somebody's house 10 times, 15 times, the same house, the same problem. No. Do you know why? Because the heart that is going to do right by God has already been prepared by the Holy Spirit. If a couple is quarreling and it takes 10 visits for you to be able to see the light and know that something is wrong, then it gives you an idea, these ones are not yet ready. Their hearts may be closed, or maybe the heart of one person may be closed to the Spirit of God. They don't want to hear it. And if that is the case, those of us that are pastors, we kind of talk about what you call satanic time wasters. Some people are time wasters. You just spend your time all day, get frustrated. And I am a person, as you know, I'm a person that really cares for the flock that God has given me. And because I really care for that flock, even personally and emotionally, there is a chance, the likelihood of me getting myself too immersed in a problem. And before you know it, you find yourself, people have wasted your time exceedingly. I tell you once, I tell you twice, what you are doing, and this is what the Bible says. In case you didn't hear it the first time, I'll tell you the second time. And once you know the two, you know what the Bible has said, and I'll tell you, okay, this is what you should do. And if you won't do that after 1 or 2 visits, I'll send you to professional counselor. Maybe there may be other issues, that are deeper in there. But no more 10 visits sessions for me. I'm done with those. So we send you to a counselor after you visited with the pastor and a couple of times. And at the end of the counseling, we want to just, hey, tell us, how did it go? A professional counselor will never tell a third party what you told them in counseling. They're not going to do that. And so I cannot go back to the professional counselor and ask them, oh, what did you do with brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so? Well, if they are a professional, they'll never tell. But what you can happen is that you who went to the counselor, you can come back and say, oh, Pastor, I went with my husband, I went with my wife, or we went together, and this is the outcome. We thank you for guiding us along the way. Or we went, and when we were going, we went one time or we went 2 times, and then my husband or my wife refused to go anymore. Because that happens a lot in counseling. If that's the case, then you'll come back to me, and then I'll decide on the matter, since such a couple decided not to follow up with whatever the counselor says. So those will be the steps generally that we would take as a church. The goal of the church is always, in marital situations, we want the husband and the wife to be able to work out their situation, and we want at the end of the day all of us to be joyful because unity of the church is restored. We are not, or let me put it like this, however, if during the course of counseling we find out that any of the parties is at risk, if either the husband or the wife is at risk, the safety of the at-risk party becomes the number one priority of the church. So the church wants reconciliation and restoration, but if anybody is at risk, safety will become the number one priority. And in those cases, we would have to tell maybe one of the parties, hey, in your own interest, we cannot make you, but in your own interest, maybe it is time to separate. And with that couple I was dealing with earlier today, that is what we had to do. As difficult as it is for a pastor, we never want to tell couples separate. I've had many quarrels with Sister Kim over the past close to 30 years of marriage, but thanks be to God, we have never, because of one quarrel, moved out of the house. Whatever the quarrel, no matter how big it is, by the grace of God, we have been able to contain it within the house. But there are sometimes, not everybody can say that. Sometimes problems become too big. I think one of the reasons that Sister Kim and I can say that we have never had to go to that extent is because we have also made a promise to ourselves that we don't go to bed upset. So whenever there's any problem, we solve it before we go to sleep. And because we try to do that, we're not always perfect, but because we try to do that, our disputes don't tend to grow to the point whereby one of us has to leave the house. It's never happened. And by the grace, it will not happen, by the grace of God. But this couple today, that's what I have to recommend for them to do. Why? Because the safety of one of them was at stake. One of them kept on saying, I don't feel safe after this incident. And I said, if you don't feel safe in your house, then you need to move. Go and find a place. Don't rent an apartment for 6 months, but find a place, safe place where you can stay until we walk through the process of trying to get things right. Final word, and then I'll be done, just throw it up to the floor, is on the issue of divorce. Of course, God hates it. But let me just go cut to the chase. If the couple relationship between a couple in this church should deteriorate to the point where they are contemplating divorce, I think any good Christian should never make that decision alone. It is too big of a decision to make alone. If you are quarreling with your husband, quarreling with your wife, sometimes the tension gets too high. And you may not be able, you may develop blind spots. You know what a blind spot is? A problem, part of a problem that you cannot see. So it's a good idea. Talk to the church. Let the dispute be known, because guess what? Divorce is never private. The moment you go to a court, you sign the papers, it will become a public matter. So before you get to that point, talk to the church. And if there is ground for you to divorce, because Jesus, even in the text, Matthew 19, we are reading, that we will read next week, Jesus tells us that God hates divorce, but God permits divorce in certain instances. So if things get so bad that there has to be divorce, at least talk to the church. Let the church help you in that decision making to say, okay, this is right, you have grounds for divorce. And if you have grounds for divorce then, and it is something that you have to do, then that is your decision. But never make it up, just take it up on yourself. It is a serious matter. It is one of the things in the Bible that God specifically says he hates. So don't jump into it carelessly. This culture that we have, whereby anybody gets divorced for any reason, it should never be a part of the Church of Jesus Christ. Divorce is a big issue. So before you make that decision, go through the process of your church. Let it be known, these are all the things that I've done. These are all the ways the church have tried to help us. This is all of that. And if at the end of the day, this brother or this sister still will not do right, then the church might say, well, what can you do? You can't stay married to somebody who doesn't want to be married to you. And so the church will give you her blessing in the case of a divorce. So that is just oversight for the sake of some of you who had not been in the previous classes. We went through some things that we haven't gone through before, we hadn't talked about, or that you may not have heard before. For those of you who have joined us the past several weeks, some of these things have been repetitive, but that's okay. We want to keep repeating them until people understand them. Okay, so I'm going to leave it now and have anybody, whatever contributions that we want to make. And maybe I will do it by way of a question to lead us. What is it about marital conflict? Why is marital conflict why is it so much more intense, if you want to call it that, than maybe some of the other conflicts we may have, even with people in the church? What makes marital conflict, what makes it unique? Not just in its intensity, but in any way. What are the challenges? Because that is the focus for today. What have you experienced? Maybe some of you in terms of counseling others or intervening with others. Why do we have these unique challenges sometimes in marriage, even among Christians? What are some of these things? Go ahead, anybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that basically most marriages, they didn't go through the counseling at the beginning of the relationship because counseling is really very, very important because that is where expectations will be set and where you know that as you progress in the relationship that things are not always going to be perfect. And then you, from the beginning, set the foundation on how conflict will be resolved. And then everything anchored on the Word of God. But most of us went into marriages blindly, okay, without having set the basis for our relationship. So when you are now very deep into the relationship, into the marriage, and there are conflict, there's always a problem trying to resolve. It's only by the grace of God that people that didn't have counseling actually keep the marriage going. It's the grace of God. It is.
What a great answer. Sometimes people just don't get counseling. I want you guys to do most of the talking, so I'll just say this quick. I dealt with a couple once that were going through very, very intense trouble. When I started counseling them, I asked the lady, okay, tell me, how did all of these things start? How was it in the beginning when you and your husband got married? She told me, when me and my husband got married, I married my husband shortly after my daddy died. And to cut story short, she said that when I married him, I was expecting him to take my daddy's place. Can you imagine the enormity of that burden to put on a young man that just married you? That your expectation from day one is that you should be the replacement of your father? She told me this. I said, wow. I don't know. I mean, some of you have big shoulders. I could never have had such big shoulders to say I want to be the replacement of somebody's father in their life. Expectations. Sometimes people have wrong expectations. And you cannot bear them. They can show good answer. Let somebody else help us.
I guess from my point of view, I just think, like you said, too much expectations, right? But also in a marriage, before you step into, even before you get married, you have to, like he said, you have to let the person know where you're coming from, in the sense that you want to be very truthful in everything. You want to let them know your shortcomings. You want to let them know your weaknesses. You want to let them know everything. So as the marriage goes along, there won't be, I'm not saying there will be storms and everything over the years, right? But in every marriage, if you, what's the word I want to use? You figure it out before the night falls, like you said. Everything works out for the good. But don't put too much expectations because we're all not perfect. That's the key thing there.
Good one. We're not all perfect. That is definitely true. And be as transparent as possible.
You gotta be transparent.
That is the point you are making.
And you gotta be very truthful. And you can't be a Superman. You just have to be straight in the situation.
Now let me ask this question. Not of you, Aladi, but just putting it out to everybody. How many people, when they get married, are 100% transparent in the beginning? Sometimes I've met a lot of people who were not, 100% transparent, because you are kind of tiptoeing around this relationship, this person you are trying to marry sometimes. That happens. But that is a real fact.
But
Lack
Pastor,
of-
like I'm looking at it from my point of view, right?
Uh-huh,
Before we got married, I asked my wife, I said, listen, we've known each other for a while now, right? If you like what you see, this is me. I'm not going to change. This is the way I am. That's the transparency I'm saying.
Good.
This is the way it's going to be. If you like it, that's the way it
Then
is.
we'll go forward.
Yes.
And she said yes.
And she said yes.
Amen.
And we're still holding on.
I'll talk to Sister April a little bit later about that. Everything is exactly like he told you. Okay, any other thoughts about it? With this marriage thing?
Amen.
Deacon David.
Yeah, well, marriage is it's a tough university where you don't graduate. And if we go back to the biblical time, okay, you can cancel, you can set expectations and all that. Look, people change in the course of time. In the biblical time, Abraham told his servant, go and get my son a wife, Isaac. They didn't cancel. They didn't do any expectation. It's because they were doing it on the foundation of God's principle. Anything that you start and you don't start it in that principle, eventually, because you are using your own little up over here, then before you know, that will dwindle away. And then once it fades away, then that's where the problem comes in, and you will get a rude awakening when they say, look, I am tired of this. And there are a lot of people that just get up and leave without a fight. And yes, they'll just say,
they don't even tell you.
Yeah, and
I've seen that too.
and the deal is that there is no difference when it comes to divorce rate. There's no difference between the unbeliever community and the Christian community. There's no even difference among the pastoral community and the congregation community. Statistics have proven that. When I say sometimes somebody will just get away, I think some of you know our faithful guy in Georgia, Charles Stanley. You know what happened to him? His wife just got up one day. He wanted to divorce, right? Deacon Fidelis?
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah, his wife wanted to divorce. And the guy was, this is a man all of us have listened to. He wanted to leave the church. But the elder, they figured it out, they said no. So it happened. But some of the issue is marriages, the key, financing. Financing is a problem. Hiding stuff. A lot of people hide their own money in marriages. And then not telling the truth. So as soon, even when you go through counseling and all that, and then you find out that this thing where all of a sudden they are coming in, then problem will start coming in and the whole thing will start to dwindle. Is walking with the Lord day by day, praying together, doing everything together, keeping your money together. I cannot emphasize that enough. If you don't keep your money together, eventually there will be a problem. Like the series I gave one time, that husband and wife have to be financially naked. If not, money will become the devil that will come and pull them apart. And that is one of the destroyer of a lot of homes.
Deacon David tried to boil it down to some things. One of the things he talked about, first of all, was the question of basically getting married on the basis of the same life principles. Let me give you an example. He gave an example about Abraham sending his servant to go and find a wife for Isaac. Abraham had expectations, and the reason he told his servant, do not go and find a wife for Isaac from among the nations. He said, go to my people and find a wife there. Do you know why? Because he knew that those people's values and his own values aligned. They had the same principles. They didn't need premarital counseling like we do today. Because Abraham could say that, marry among my people, and I know that we will have the same principles. If you have the same principles, what does premarital counseling do for you? The main purpose of premarital counseling is to put both of you on the same solid ground. On Christ, the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. So that's what premarital counseling is doing. If you are on the same, coming with the same principles, you will find out that you can have a successful marriage. But if you are living with different principles in life, then that is when the things he's talking about. Now you discover that money becomes a big issue. The big three, I call them the big three when I do counseling for people. Cash, children, and communication. If you nail down those three, you're on your way. But you miss those three, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. So, but life principles, what do you depend on? And you know what Dickie said? That will also make a lot of sense. Some of us, why do we not establish the principles first of all? Some of us we don't look deep. And I was thinking about this today. I said, if I want to marry a person, I may not know that much about her, but if we are on the same principles, we're okay. But let me give a good example. Sister Kim and I were getting married. We went to my pastor, Dr. Pryor, wonderful, wonderful man of God. And he loved my wife so much. So he says, he used to call Kim Kimmy. He said, Kimmy? He said, this is who you want to marry? Kimmy said, yes. We sat down, we talked for a few minutes, and within 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, he prayed for us and sent us off. That was our premarital counseling. That was our premarital counseling. I guess in the talking, he was trying to figure out where my heart was. Was I a person who had submitted to God and all of those things in his life? In my life, he already knew Kim. So, but sometimes you may not get along counseling and all of that, but you should have the same principles, same life principles, same basis for your living, same faith. Very, very important. Somebody else wanted to contribute. Let's hear from Brother Tony, Deacon Fidelis. Anybody? Okay, I thought Deacon Eshaw moved over there because somebody wanted to say things. Yeah.
I'm trying to put
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Well,
Brother
I'm
Tony.
going to take a little different road.
Talk,
Because some of us,
Uh-huh.
me being one of them,
Uh-huh.
we didn't go through any marital counseling.
Yeah.
And I can say if I check with a whole lot of my friends,
Yeah.
all of us are in the same plane.
Yes.
No premarital counseling.
Yes.
But I know, of course, I always tell people in my own class that my marriage was made right here on earth.
Uh-huh.
So we have issues.
Uh-huh.
But the issue that Deacon David mentioned, some of us will go through that too. Money, this money issue, where you have this account, you have that account, and we all have our own money. But once you have come to that, how do you, bring the money together if the two parties can't see eye to eye on that? I mean, this is real life question,
real life.
Because it's easy to say them in a church setting, but we know in real life setting that it's a thorny issue.
It's a very thorny issue. Deacon David, you wanted to say something? Let him say it, and then I'll make a comment.
But I think he knows who I'm talking about. It's your buddy. It's the guy I'm talking, But when he got married, it's the money issues and all that. It's my client. So he came to me and he was saying, how do you do this thing? Then I said, okay. I said, let me talk to your wife together with you. The opportunity never existed where I can talk to both of them. Then I gave him a diagram. I said, this is what you do. I said, don't make mistake of trying to, she keep her money, he keep the money. And over here. And I said, no. I said, you need to stop it. I said, you need to put your foot. Say, no, we're not going to do this. So I gave him a diagram of how they need to open the account. I said, open this account here. One for you, one for him, one, so there are 3 accounts. She get paid, you get paid, right? You know what you are making. She knows what she's making. You need to tell her how much you're making. She needs to tell you how much you're making. You guys need to decide on this account, maybe another one for household expenses. Have a percentage of her pay going to this account, the percentage of your pay going to this account. And then another one going to this account, and then the rest go to your personal account. This is the operating account where all the house expenses will be paid from. And then this one, when you open the account in the bank, you will say, this account cannot be operated by one person. The 2 people have to be present before a withdrawal will be made. There will be no debit card and all that. So I said, that's how you do it. I said, I'm not telling you anything that I'm not doing. I said, but you work. I said, try it. I said, if you can get it to work, you will be surprised how much you will save. He first started, it was a 3rd World War. But he didn't give up. Then finally, the wife said, okay, he was just talking to me. I talked to him today. He was just talking to me too. Then as soon as they started and the OT was going, after 1 year, the guy now brought, this is about 4 years ago, the guy brought all the bank statements. He said, you see the little money that we are putting here? Look at it. His wife was shocked. Could not believe. He said, really? So guess what? Who's now the champion? The wife.
She's the one who wants to continue the process.
Yes, because she was amazed of that little, putting away little money, the power of a little accumulation, what it can do. And one more thing too that I told him was that never trying to help your sister, your brother at home without letting her know, and she can do the same too. Both of you need to join together to help your brother, to help her brother or sister. I said, when you do that, I'm telling you, you don't really have to make a lot of money, but you will have a lot because you have a peace of mind that passes all understanding. When they say money is the source of all evil, it's true because it breaks people's heart. But that is something that is a practical experience. And the guy told me, and I said, look, now that I taught you how to do that, like Paul, I say, teach others in your church. Because we went to their church, I think 3 weeks ago. So, amen.
Amen. Good point. Deacon David gave you that answer like an accountant. Let me now give you the answer like a pastor. Okay. This is the deal. The reason it is important to put your money together is because of something that Jesus said. He said, where a person's treasure is, there will his heart be also. If you want to know the real condition of a person's heart, look at what they are doing with their money. Brother Tony nailed it without, just attaching to it. He said sometimes you have these ideas, we talk about it at church, then he used the word. He said, but we don't see eye to eye. You remember him making that expression? You don't see eye to eye. People's hearts are really in different places. And your money will reveal the real condition of your heart. I like the way Deacon David has given it to us systematically, how it can be doable and how you can make progress. But I've had some people before. I had a couple I counseled on the same issue before, and somebody said, oh, well, that is pastor. That worked for pastor. And his family, that is for pastor. Wow. So the person never had any intention of doing same in his own home. Well, you see, God is not a respecter of persons. If you honor God and honor God's word, what God has done for others, he will also do for you. So today's lesson is not so much about all of the keys to marital happiness or the problem, but it is bringing us back to the focus on how do we resolve conflict. But in order to resolve conflict, you must first of all know the causes of it. Yeah, and one of these things that is causing conflict in our marriages is money. Look at your money, and when you look at your money will tell you 9 out of 10 times whether there is harmony, whether there is peace, or whether there is turmoil in that home. Let us close 8:37. I want to make a strong appeal because I don't want us to resolve conflict. I want us to avoid it. The best way to deal with conflict is not to have it, to avoid it if you can. And if you are struggling, and maybe I like the way my dad told me this just a few weeks ago. These are his exact words. He said, money is a great servant, but it is a terrible master. Money is a great servant, but a terrible master. Whenever you have money, money can serve you. You can do so many things with it. But once money becomes your master, you find yourself in a heck of a lot of trouble. Because it's an evil master. So we'll talk about that other times, but pay attention to it. Ask God to give you grace. And from what Deacon David said, it wasn't an overnight thing, but step by step. You see, everything you do, every problem you have in your family, the only way to overcome it is by faith. You have to trust God. Even in the book of Malachi, is that not what Malachi said? He said, God said what? Try me and see, test me and see in this issue of tithing and all of that. If I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing greater than what you can receive. So it may not come overnight, but begin step by step. United Christian Fellowship, all of you watching or worshiping with us online in this Bible study period, don't let money be the taskmaster, the master of your heart. When money becomes the master of your heart, money will become the master of your home. You'll destroy your marriage. And then you'll be looking at others thinking about how they are making it. I've seen a lot of people, they see a good married couple, instead of celebrating, say, nah, fake. That's nothing but envy. Okay. Go and don't let money be your master. Once money becomes the master of your heart, do something with your husband, because money is involved, you shake. You get money somewhere, you go and hide it somewhere. It's like, you cannot, even our relationship with God is based on trust. Is that right? Faith is trust. What about my relationship with Kim? What about my relationship with my daughter or my son? It's the same thing. It's faith, trust. You can't trust. I asked a lady one time, because she didn't want to even think. She didn't want to know what the Bible said about money and her husband. She didn't even want to know about what the Bible said. So I asked her a question. I said, "This is your husband?" She said, "Yeah." "You sleep in the same bed with him every night?" "Yeah." I said, "So you trust him with your body, but you won't trust him with your dollar?" She looked at me. And that's how many people are. You trust somebody with your heart, trust them with your body, but you don't trust them with a single dollar. That speaks volumes. I don't have to say anything beyond that. May God give us, in this issue, let us learn. The older you get, listen, the older you get, the more you will discover that every good thing that happening in your life is because of God. When you are young, you think you are intelligent, you think you have strategic career plans and all this. At the end of the day, it is all because of what? God. People that are better than you are sleeping in their graves. Some of them are in hospitals, unable to help themselves. They are 1,000 times better than you if you are talking about your morality. It is God. So why don't you obey him? Son, even you as a young man in high school, you can begin to trust God and obey him when you're young. Don't wait like some of these old folk in the church who never figured it out until we got 50 or 60. Trust him now with your life. Learn how to overcome problems that happen at school now through the word of God, so there will be no fighting in the class that makes somebody start shooting. You understand what I'm saying, son? Yeah. Not this old folk you are seeing. We waited until old age. Then now in old age we are finally figuring out Jesus Christ. And some are so foolish that even in old age till now they haven't figured it out. Everything is God. You are healthy is God. You are in Bible study is God. You are in your career doing your job is God. You have money in the bank is God. The bill you paid is God. It's God. I like what Paul said in a place. He said, for me to live is Christ, and to die is what? Gain. That regardless whether I live or I die, it's all about Christ. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. God bless you all. It's been a wonderful blessing to have you with us in Bible study today. Remember, it is all about Christ. And I guess the Holy Spirit wanted us to go down this road. I don't know who is watching me. I don't know what family it is. But if your family is struggling and you find yourself in constant conflict, go and check your money. Your money might be the cause of the problem. And if you don't change the way you handle your money, you are not going to get out of the problem that you're in. That is the word of God for you today and for all of us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. On Friday.
You've been watching Lifeline, a production of Lifeline Media and United Christian Fellowship of Arlington. We pray you have been blessed. Subscribe to our channel and follow us online for more Christ-filled content. United Christian Fellowship of Arlington is a diverse church for a diverse world. Thanks for watching.